Many of you in the audience may be familiar with a product called Creo Illustrate. But for those of you that are not, Creo Illustrate is a tool that's been purpose-built for technical illustrators who want to prepare rich 3D content for consumption downstream to convey sequences and animations either in videos or in the form of 3D documentation. And it's really easy to prepare these step-by-step instructions. For example, like the one that you see here that shows how to perform a task using a 3D model presented on a computer screen. So we're going to use exactly the same technology, and we're going to author the air filter replacement sequence that's needed to address the issue that Jim and Terry showed earlier. We're going to use this same technology to author that sequence, but in this case, we're going to present that information on the physical product using augmented reality. So here we are on Mark's laptop, and we're working inside of Creo Illustrate. Now, that's the whole gen set. We're actually going to focus in on the air intake, which contains the components that are needed for this particular procedure. Now, the steps to open up the clips and remove the filter cap have already been authored. Those are there on the left-hand side. So Mark's going to go ahead and author the rest of the procedure pretty quickly here.
You know, Mike, we have heard from Vuforia developers how painful it is to be able to create step-by-step instructions. But as I look at this with Creo Illustrate, this looks so simple. How is it so easy?
Yeah, it is really simple, Jay. And the first reason that it's so simple is because it's got a really intuitive user interface. We've worked really hard to make it very, very easy to create these illustrations. We've employed a drag and drop paradigm, so it's almost like PowerPoint for creating animations. But beyond the UI, there's another really important point here, and that is that many animation tools don't have a deep understanding of design data. They don't really understand individual components and product structure and the engineering intent behind components. Of course, with tools from PTC, we have a deep understanding of that, and that understanding can be reused and used effectively to communicate this knowledge out to the broader enterprise. Now, Mark has finished authoring this sequence. He's going to go ahead and save that in Creo Illustrate so that we can use it back in Vuforia Studio. And now we'll switch back into Vuforia Studio. Okay, so now we see again the entire gen set here, but this time, most of that data that you see is just visual context that Mark needs while he authors the experience. Right? This use case is different. In this case, we're not going to project all of this geometry into reality. We're only going to project the subset that's interesting to us, the subset of data that's relevant to the procedure that we're trying to present. And what subset is that? Well, in the 3D properties here of this data, you'll now notice that there is a sequence associated with the data set. That sequence is the sequence that Mark just created in Creo Illustrate, okay? And because these tools are so tightly integrated, when Mark selects that sequence to be presented, Vuforia Studio and Vuforia View are intelligent enough that they will only display that subset of the components in the resulting experience. Now, there's another key point here, and that is that we want to see those animated parts projected onto the physical part itself. So that thing mark, we don't want that on the floor. We actually want that thing mark to be placed on the physical product. So Mark's going to drag it, and you'll see as he drags it, it intelligently mates to relevant flat surfaces. He's going to place that on the control panel in the very same location in the digital model as it is here in the gen set that's on the stage behind me. Okay, so as he drags that, he's going to scale that down, but and we're almost done. But there's one more question to ask. How is somebody that's having this experience going to launch the sequence? Well, we need some user interface, right? So in addition to the 3D space where we've been working in the studio, there's actually also a 2D layer. You can think of this 2D layer as a pane where you can put user interface, buttons and sliders and so forth, that will all be presented in the experience in the actual pane of glass, on the actual screen. So here, we're going to add we've got a grid at the bottom. We're going to add a button. Mark's going to name that button Play. and he's going to associate the action of clicking on that button so that it actually plays the sequence. So we're going to bind those things together. Now that he's done that, again, we're going to publish this experience back up to the cloud. We'll give it a name. We're going to call it sequence this time, Mark. And again, here in Vuforia View, I'm scanning, and in this case, I'm scanning the code, the thing mark on the device, on the physical product. And you see sequence here at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and select that. Now, if I were a service technician or if I were a dealer that had to perform this operation, I might spend time looking through manuals and understanding text and diagrams and so forth. But thanks to these capabilities, I can simply use Vuforia View and browse for the relevant experiences and have that information presented in a way with no ambiguity, right? With crystal clear visual clarity. Now you see, when I hit the play button, you'll see the air filter will highlight as if it's actually inside of the machine. I can see the clips opening, the cap coming off, and I see that I need to employ a rotating motion as I pull that filter out of the machine.
Wow! Guys,